Jacen comes, tables wait, the bar's got that swing. Glasses clink, hear the ice cubes sing. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. There's Troy laughing with his gin and a grin, telling stories about where he's been. Boomer's got whiskey, he's loosening his tie. Jacen dreams under a midday sky. The bartender knows us, he's mixing with flair. Every sip's a moment we're happy to share. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for the day. The clock don't matter, we're lost in the vibe. Jazz in the air, feel the soul come alive. From martinis to bourbon, we're riding the wave. Stealing this hour, it's the freedom we crave. Sun's still shining, but we're in our zone. This bar's our shelter, our temporary home. One more round before the world calls us back. Savor the moment, keep the blues in the rack. We'll laugh and we'll toast till the afternoon fades. Memories made in these liquid escapades. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. So here's to the daylight, the drinks and the fun. Our liquid lunch, till the next one comes. With a wink and a smile, we'll be back real soon. Chasing that jazz under the high noon.
Salut and WTF! It's Wednesday already. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about today and not a lot of time to do it in, so I will try my best to get through it as quickly as possible. But I want to take the time to say hi to each and every one of you because you are all so important to me. Starting with Mark Malnikoff, says, Mech po! Yes, it is lunchtime. Here I are. I claim this place in the chat for the Klingon Empire. Kapla! Welcome, my friend. Good to see you. Big Al of Big Al Presents says, WTF will Troy be bringing the liquid lunchers today? Have a great show, my friends. And wishing a happy day to everyone. Wow, a happy day. That is... What more could you ask for? Let's be honest. Well, you could ask for someone to love you like the love of my life does. Netter of Netters Network, welcome. She says, like, share, subscribe, become a member, leave a comment, and gift a membership. Yep, memberships are getting more valuable, too. I am in as she points out, I'm in a membership drive for as little as $1.99 a month. You get, among other wonderful features, a Monday night at the movies. I just updated, I just posted the first in a two-part poll for the members to decide what genre of scary movie we're going to watch this Monday. So if you are a member, you can go and vote on that. The four categories are mummy, vampire, man as God, in other words, Frankenstein, and things in that nature, and for other horror genres, such as the other ones you think of, the slasher movies and stuff like that. So go check that out if you are a member. I have also, members, added a couple new items to the perks for regular and VIP members that you might want to go ahead and check out at no extra cost to you. Gifted memberships also welcome. Yes, if you're already a member, pull someone else in there. Let them see what the value of membership is. Jonathan Conroy says, "Hail all, smash the like button and enjoy the show." Yes, please do that. I hope you do enjoy the show. Hey, last call to Trey Pacelli, you better go check that cheeseburger on your grill. It's about to fall through the grate and into the fire. Good. It deserves to burn. It really does. It really does. That's not what we're talking about today, though. That's a whole other topic. And Mark says, release those nanobots. Absolutely. Well, I am not going to wait for people to get in here because I do have a lot that I want to talk about. It's all basically one topic, and we've been talking about it for a couple weeks now. It's been the primary focus of WTF, but I think it's worth talking about. And let's get right into it. I thought I had shared this. I guess I hadn't yet. Bringing it up now. And you'll notice the red band, which indicates I am a premium member of that Park Place. I cannot recommend that Park Place enough. They are my primary source for entertainment news. If for no other reason than they're doing the job that the mainstream media doesn't do anymore. They are bringing you the inside information on entertainment without bias, although they do provide good opinion pieces as well, which I suppose might constitute bias if it weren't for the fact that they list when they're editorializing. So anyway, but don't worry, none of these articles we're looking at are paywalled or anything like that. I'm bringing you exactly what you can find for yourself if you go to that Park Place, which I encourage you to do. These links will be in the description below after the stream. I didn't put them there initially because I ran out of time, but I will get them there. Welcome, Connie Cleary. We're getting into it right now. FCC Chair Brendan Carr to testify over Jimmy Kimmel suspension controversy. We told you that this one was going to court. Let's get a little bit of an update on that one. And this one comes to us from Marvin Montanaro. He's doing great work over there. He really, really is. I follow. You can find him on YouTube under Marvin the Movie Monster. Make sure you're subscribed to him there. Let's see. Federal Communication Commission Chair Brendan Carr will appear before the Senate Commerce Committee following remarks about Jimmy Kimmel Live that ignited a fierce national debate. We all know about that. Carr's testimony, confirmed by a committee which is chaired by Senator Ted Cruz, comes amid growing scrutiny of how government officials, broadcasters, and entertainment companies handle politically charged speech on public airwaves. Again, there's a difference between public airwaves, which are, let's face it, they are controlled and supervised by the government. That's what we have decided to do with the public airwaves. This is not the same as public spaces in the world, right? You have the free speech to go out and blow a megaphone on a street corner, in a public park, in front of businesses, on the public sidewalk, stuff like that. You have the right to print pamphlets and hand them out. Emails. You got a lot of freedom on the internet as well. But remember, if you are using a method of communication that is governed by someone else, whether it's this platform or other companies within your own businesses and so forth. Those businesses get to choose. And when it comes to the public airwaves, this was true with, and has been true with radio waves. This has to do with airspace for traffic control. These are public spaces, but we have decided that they need to be maintained and governed in order to make that fair to everybody. That's what we're talking about here. On September 17th, Carr appeared on a conservative YouTube program and addressed Jimmy Kimmel's televised, and see, they're even pointing out, that, this is where the bias might be, if you consider that to be a bias, right? About the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The remarks he was referring to included Kimmel spreading misinformation, claiming that the alleged assassin was a conservative supporter of President Trump. It was known at the time that was not true, and it is very clear now. During the discussion, Carr said, when we see stuff like this, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. The companies can find ways to change conduct on Kimmel, or they're going to be adding work to the FCC ahead. Critics interpreted those comments as a threat to review the license of ABC affiliates airing Jimmy Kimmel Live. See, here's the thing. It's not necessarily a threat, but it's like, if the shoe fits, wear it. Do you think that we might have to do that? If you do, check your conduct, right? I am not threatening you with pulling your license, but if you think you're doing something that might cause me to scrutinize your license, maybe you should do something about that on your own before I have to bring it up. That threat exists all the time. It's the very nature of the license. You must comply with this, and this, or your license will be taken away. And if you think that you are in violation, you might want to change that behavior. Anyway, let's move on, because I got a couple of articles related to this that I want to get to. The fallout was swift. Within days, two major station groups, Nexstar Media Group and Sinclair Broadcast Group, announced they would indefinitely preempt Kimmel's show on the ABC affiliates. Remember, this is their airwaves. These are their channels. They don't have to carry Kimmel if they don't want to. Just like I said, you can't go into your business and think that you have free speech if you work for somebody else. It's their business. They get to decide what kind of speech you do and do not use in representing them, right? You cannot go into somebody's private home and start preaching whatever you want to preach. That's their private home. They can tell you to leave anytime they want to. This is no different. This isn't the FCC. This is these companies. So that's not censorship, at least not on the part of the federal government. Disney indefinitely suspended the show as well. The move proved short-lived. So protests, right? People actually voicing their opinion, maybe wanting to withhold their dollars from these companies, whatever, got them to change their mind. Again, this does not constitute federal censorship, right? So they backed down. The episode, however, left the entertainment industry facing uncomfortable questions. Did Disney act out of principle, public pressure, or regulatory fear? Does not matter. It is their choice to make. And if they feel like any of those things were part of their decision making, that's up to them. That's not up to the entertainment industry. Welcome, Final Fantasy fan 012. Even then, the FCC is full of crap. That's an opinion. That's absolutely an opinion. But it's beyond the scope of what we're talking about today. That's a good point, Mark Malnikoff. Your rights end at the front door of the business. Recently had an issue with that at the dilithium mines earlier this summer. It ended badly for the individual involved. Exactly right. People think that their rights are absolute. They are not. That is not how it works in a society. Period. Society means there are agreements to, balance rights with everyone else's rights, right? I tend to be fairly libertarian. I think there should be as little regulation as possible, but there must be some regulation. Otherwise, some people get rights and other people don't, right? See, that's the thing. If we didn't regulate, for example, the airwaves, right? You could have everybody broadcasting however they want, and you wouldn't get any clear signals. So nobody would be heard. See, that's the problem, right? I have a right to picket in this public park. Yes, you do. But you're going to need a license because other people also have that right. And so we have to regulate when you get to use it and when someone else gets to use it and when someone else gets to use it, right? Otherwise, just get up on top of your house and yell through a megaphone, The Senate Commerce Committee, which oversees the FCC, is now preparing to question Carr about his remarks and their implications. Senator Cruz, though a fellow Republican, was among the first to criticize the tone of Carr's comments. On his Verdict podcast, Cruz said, "I think it is unbelievably dangerous for government to put itself in a position of saying we're going to decide what speech we like and what we don't. That's dangerous as hell." I see what he's saying. Let's get to the free speech and accountability. To Carr's defenders, the controversy has been exaggerated by a media industry unaccustomed to being questioned. They argue the FCC chair merely reminded broadcasters that freedom of speech does not mean freedom from standards, especially when misinformation, tragedy, and politics collide on air. The example that people always use regarding free speech is you're free to say what you want, but you're not free to yell fire in a crowded theater. Now, people misunderstand that truism. What they mean by that is yelling fire in, and this is where it all comes down to very specific legal terminology, right? If you yell fire in a crowded theater, there better be a fire where you're trying to get people out. If there's not, you better be able to demonstrate that you had reasonable belief that there was a fire and that what you were doing was the necessary thing for people's safety. If you are pulling a prank and saying fire in a crowded theater and people go running out and get trampled and injured and possibly killed, you could be liable for that, right? Same is true if you start saying things that aren't true that lead people to actions, right? Just understand what we're talking about here. Why this hearing matters. The upcoming Senate testimony will likely explore whether Carr's remarks were a legitimate expression of regulatory concerns or an overstep into editorial territory. He didn't say a lot. There's a lot of assumptions being made about what he said. Just my opinion. Whether ABC and its affiliates acted independently or felt pressured by government oversight. Again, I question how much that matters. If you're just being reminded of what your license requires and the specifications, if that's pressure, well, then you misunderstand the whole point of your license and what you've agreed to. And whether this episode sets a precedent for future show suspensions or politically motivated interference. It might. It just might. The broader takeaway, regardless of political leaning, the Kimmel-Carr controversy exposes a core challenge of modern media. Where does accountability end and censorship begin? Carr's critics fear government intrusion. His supporters see a rare official willing to demand responsibility for billion-dollar broadcasters. Look, This comes down to the same situation we're seeing in so-called sanctuary cities, so-called sanctuary states, where they are not enforcing the law, right? There is a law that exists. The lack of enforcement of it doesn't change the fact that law does exist and could get enforced at any time, especially when there is a change in the whoever sits in the White House or in the governor's office or in the mayor's office, right? They could decide at any time to enforce the laws that exist. In fact, they should be doing that. Even if they don't agree with it, you should be enforcing the law. And if you don't agree with it, work with the legislature to change those laws. And I mean that for the executives as well as we the people. If you don't like the law, change the law, but enforce it nonetheless. That's the way the legal system is supposed to work. Welcome, Curtis Selby. Either way, when Carr appears before the Senate, the hearing won't just be about one late-night host. It will be about the future boundaries of free expression on America's airwaves. But let's talk a little bit about Jimmy Kimmel personally. Jimmy Kimmel's ratings crater, drops 85% of key viewers since the return to late-night Disney TV. So keep this in mind. Before any of this happened, before the assassination even, all of late-night television's ratings were dropping steadily. Kimmel's in particular, right? He was one of the lowest rated, okay? And then he said he said a lot of dumb. And there was a little bit of uptick when he was canceled and brought back because people wanted to see, hey, is he going to apologize? Is he going to retract what he said? Let's see what happens. One night, there was a big uptick, and then it plummeted back down, I would argue, to where it was going anyway. So in other words, this whole thing represents just a little blip, a little bloop. He got a little, he was off the air for a little while, then he got a little bump in ratings, and then back down into the gutter. So, not a net positive for him, other than it may have saved his show for a little time because of the pressure that Disney is feeling. Not pressure from the government, pressure from non-government organizations. Don't call it a comeback because it isn't one. Ratings for Jimmy Kimmel Live have absolutely cratered since the controversial partisan host returned to the Disney-owned ABC late-night lineup. When Jimmy Kimmel returned to his late-night show after a suspension that made national headlines, ABC promoted it as a triumphant comeback. For a moment, the hype worked. Curiosity drove a temporary spike in viewership. See, I just said that. For a moment, the hype worked. Curiosity drove the temporary spike. Oh, I just read that. But within just 2 weeks, the Jimmy Kimmel ratings have cratered, shedding a massive and devastating 85% of his key audience and returning to levels that once had industry insiders questioning whether his show could even survive. 85% down from what was already dismal viewership. Let's just be clear about that. The numbers don't lie. According to Fox News, Jimmy Kimmel Live has lost 85% of its key demographic viewers since that hyped comeback episode. On Thursday, October 2nd, Jimmy Kimmel Live averaged 1.9 million total viewers, a loss of 71% from an audience of 6.3 million that turned in for his return from suspension. Wow. The drop is even more dramatic in the advertiser-favored 25 to 54 demo. Kimmel's show went from 1.7 million viewers in that age group on the return night to just 265,000. There's YouTube channels getting more views than that. Not mine, but there are. Wow, that's not a small dip. That's a collapse. Kimmel's return drew attention initially because of the suspension controversy, but viewers quickly turned out. tuned out, excuse me. His total audience now hovers dangerously close to the pre-suspension lows that sparked network panic in the first place. ABC, which is owned by Disney, has not officially commented on the figures, but the data tells the story clearly. Viewers are leaving in droves. Oh, there's the height. There it is throughout August. That's sad. This is pre the situation that just happened in September. So it's already looking pretty dismal. And now it's lower than that. For context, late night TV has been shrinking for years. I said that too. But even among struggling competitors, Kimmel's decline stands out. While The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon and Late Show with Stephen Colbert have managed to maintain modest stability, with Colbert still being canceled, Kimmel's ratings have nosedived more sharply than anyone else's, falling nearly 50% from January to August. This is way before any of this. And that's despite all the media oxygen that surrounded this return. After weeks of coverage about his suspension, Kimmel's show had a massive spotlight moment, and he blew it. Yeah. He tried to. He thought that he could just keep riding the misinformation TDS train, but that doesn't work. I want to welcome Wilkie's Movies and Music to the chat. Good to see you, my friend, channel member, and the person that I take you over to personally on Friday because he's got a great show. Kimmel's problem is simple. Viewers no longer trust him to be a funny, fair, or even entertaining. His brand of smirking political humor, which was once edgy, now feels tired and predictable. His show relies less on jokes and more on lectures, often directed at half the country. I'm going to add this myself. His guests. I am no longer interested in these people in the entertainment industry. These people are as horrible and as bad as him. And everybody that signed Hanoi's Jane's protest letter, I will never watch their movies ever again, and that includes this dinglehopper here. When Kimmel used his comeback monologue to openly weep, openly weep with no actual tears, before pivoting to make snide remarks about President Trump, it might have played well with his Hollywood peers who aren't watching the show anyway. But it didn't sit well with the millions of Americans who used to tune in for laughs, not lectures. The irony, of course, is that Trump remains one of the most watched political figures in the country. Kimmel, meanwhile, can barely hold an audience of 2 million. The joke may have been on him. The audience got the message. Gets into the broader decline of the industry in general. The media spin machine, because they see this as being a direct concern for their own industry. The media protection may be doing more harm than good. The truth is, ABC's late night ratings collapse is part of a much larger trend for Disney. The company has spent the last few years alienating large portions of its audience while doubling down on political narratives that turn off families and everyday viewers, despite the fact that Iger said he was going to cool the temperature. He never has done that. A comeback in name only. Yeah. We told you got a little blip and then nothing. For all the media applause and selective coverage, the numbers are the only thing that matter, and those numbers are bad, very bad. Unless something changes, Jimmy Kimmel Live may not have many comebacks left to hype. I expect he won't have any comebacks to hype. The best that will happen is that the ratings will continue to drop, and it's up to Disney if they want to keep funneling money into that furnace. That's what it comes down to. I need a drink, and I'm going to play the new week's promos, and we'll be back in just under 3 minutes for your comments. Where is it? There it is.
You are watching Liquid Lunch, streaming every weekday at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. Let's sip together.
This Thursday night, Netters Network welcomes back returning friend of the channel, the enigmatic and mysterious Christoph of the Vagrancy Horror. He's going to update us on what's new on his channel since we last talked to him and find out what he's got coming up. That's this Thursday night at 9 Central, 10 Eastern on Netters Network.
This week on Saturday Night at the Movies, Jeremy Renner and Gemma Arterton are brother and sister duo Hansel and Gretel, professional witch hunters who help innocent villagers. One day they stumble upon a case that could hold the key to their past. Join us for Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters on Netters Network Retro Cinema this Saturday night at 9 Central, 10 Eastern.
In a world where nearly all the entertainment is remakes, reboots, and rehashes of older properties, maybe it's worth it to get some commentary from people who experienced it all when it was novel and fresh. Catch Boomer and Pacelli on Geeky Geezers every Sunday night at 8 Central, 9 Eastern.
This week on Live from Sparkwood and 21, we'll be watching the first half of the series created by Mark Frost and David Lynch called On the Air. This sitcom follows the staff of a fictional 1950s television network as they produce a live variety show called The Lester Guy Show, often with disastrous results. Join us this Tuesday at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern on Deleted Scenes and Affiliates.
When Keela, the purser of the cruise ship Space Princess, makes Scorpio's crew a lucrative offer, Avon is loath to refuse. After all, even if it does belong to Servalan, who could resist the temptation of 17 billion in gold? This week on Last Call presents Blake's 7, 10 p.m. Central, 11 Eastern.
We now return to our liquid lunch.
And in addition, I am returning to Pop Culture Breakdown tonight over on Doomcock's channel. So I hope you can stop by and support me over there. Shout me out in the chat. Make me look good. I know you will, Nate. I'm talking to all the other guys. I would really, really appreciate that. Really excited that he enjoys having me back. Speaking of Nate, he says Jimmy Kimmel has been on the bottom of the television ratings since 2016. It's actually lower than it was. Exactly right. First, I have the right to free speech. Second, let's even pretend, though it isn't true, that what he said was acceptable and or none of the government's business. 3, we have every right to turn him off. Well, and that's right. And that's what I was getting at with Nextel and so forth. They have a right not to carry him if they so choose. And as far as ratings go, he has no right to ratings. That's exactly right. The job is not one of the rights guaranteed in the Constitution. Yes, that's absolutely true. That is absolutely true. When he says... and other people in the entertainment industry says he has a right to a show because free speech. I say, okay, then I have a right to a gun because freedom to bear arms. Now I need the government to start supplying me with weapons. See, that's how this works. That literally is how the law works. If it applies here, it applies here as well. If you don't think it applies there, it doesn't apply anywhere. Last time, a small dip. That's the earth removing itself from underneath your feet. Yeah, exactly. And again, want to say hi to Wilkie's Movies and Music. Hey, if he drops much more, audiences maybe I can afford to advertise on his show. I have a nearly full penny jar. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's getting to the point where he's not going to have any viewership, and even a penny would be wasted on his channel. No. Second thought, I use the pennies to buy ho-hos. There you go. That will be more productive than my channel anyway. Okay. Well, ho-hos are very, very yummy. That is true. Mark Ruffalo is the biggest moron in Hollywood, and that's saying a lot. Yeah, that is saying a lot, because I can think of a lot bigger ones. Keep in mind, Jane Fonda is still in Hollywood, so let's just be honest. Ho-hos cost way too much today. Well, yeah. A penny doesn't go nearly as far as it used to. I'm so sorry I insulted young families in their time of grief. Yeah, exactly. You guys are, yep, there you go. Let me move on to say hi to the Horror King. Welcome, welcome. Connie loves Christoph's channel. I hope you tune in on Thursday to hear about what he's got going on. To quote the Merovingian, I don't know that reference. Mark my words and mark them well. I predict that Jimmy Kimmel will live when Jimmy Kimmel Live when is. I predict that Jimmy Kimmel Live when is on summer hiatus. Oh, probably will be canceled when he's on hiatus. Actually, those markets that brought him back on, no one's watching him in those markets. Yeah, that's great. They brought him back for nothing. Exactly. Let's see. How to exercise my free speech while reading a clause in my severance agreement after getting Elsa'd from my job. In other words, let it go. I get it. Welcome, by the way, Lester. Actually, Jane Fonda came out and condemned her fellow Democrats for what they were saying about Charlie Kirk. Yeah. These people eat their own. These leftists. They are like the Wendigos of political speech. Let's get back to what we were talking about. I have one more article that I want to get through very, very quickly. So while we're talking about free speech, you have to look at how is everyone being treated, right? Is everyone being treated equally? You know, free speech is free for only some people, not for everyone. 5 canceled celebrities who never got the Jimmy Kimmel comeback treatment from Hollywood. Is that because of the way they were treated by the government, or was it because of the way they were treated by companies? If it's censorship to take Jimmy Kimmel off the air, then it was censorship to take off these 5 celebrities. Freedom of speech is supposed to be universal, especially in entertainment, where pushing boundaries and exploring ideas used to be the very purpose of art. But in Hollywood, any number of canceled celebrities will tell you that free expression is conditional. When Jimmy Kimmel was suspended in 2020 after spreading false information about the killer, 2020, it must have been, that was 2025, about the killer of Charlie Kirk, the fallout should have been career-ending. He used his platform on national television to repeat misinformation during a moment on national grief. But instead of condemnation, Hollywood closed ranks. Media outlets rushed to excuse him, celebrities defended him, and ABC quietly reinstated him just days later. And when he returned, he did so as if nothing had happened, with applause, forgiveness, and full network backing. Yet Kimmel never actually said anything courageous or controversial that should be defended by anyone. He spread misinformation and mockery during a real national tragedy, then hid behind the banner of satire. And still, the gatekeepers called it protected speech. And make no mistake about it, Kimmel had every right to say what he said, whether it was true or not. Freedom of speech guarantees this. That's why in the United States, you can't be jailed for a tweet or a late-night monologue. However, he is not immune from the consequence, and ABC had every right to take him off the air. See, there's a lot of people out there throwing around the word fascist, referring to the government. In a fascist government, if you say something that they don't like, you will be imprisoned and maybe never seen again. That is not the same as having your license revoked, a license you agreed to when you take it on. It's an agreement, and if you break that agreement, you lose that privilege. Having a TV show is a privilege, not a right. For other entertainers, that same freedom of expression was nowhere to be found. They were erased overnight, not for breaking laws or committing crimes, but for telling jokes, expressing opinions, or being on the wrong side of the cultural aisle. Some were even cleared of heinous allegations and charges by a court of law, and yet still fell before the might of the court of public opinion. And I would argue that many of you are still judging people who have been found not guilty in a court of law because you believe what other people have said and you have not actually looked at the evidence and thought it through the way a jury did. I have been guilty of this as well, and I'm asking you to have the intellectual honesty to think about the people that you are judging. O.J. Simpson, for example. That's a topic for another day. Here are 5 celebrity Hollywood happily canceled and never brought back, while Jimmy Kimmel was forgiven and paraded out like a free speech hero. Roseanne Barr. When ABC received, and here is a big difference, Roseanne Barr's was the #1 rated show at the time, and she was removed from that show. Jimmy Kimmel is bottom of the barrel, and he was returned. When ABC received Roseanne in 2018, or revived Roseanne in 2018, it was a smash hit, a rare cultural unifier in a divided country. Over 18 million people tuned in, proving that audiences still wanted family comedies that felt real and politically balanced. But one ill-conceived tweet later, that all vanished. After Roseanne Barr made a remark about former Obama advisor Valerie Jarrett, a joke instantly branded racist, ABC canceled her show within hours. Look, apparently it's racist if you disagree with someone who has a different skin color than you. That's if the person's the same skin color as you, it's okay. But you're not allowed to disagree with anyone who has a different skin color. Apparently that's what constitutes racist in this day and age. That's not how it works, folks, but that's what they'll claim. Let's see. What made it worse was Jimmy Kimmel's reaction. The same man who would go on to be suspended for misinformation went on his show and said he was glad ABC did the right thing by canceling Roseanne, adding that Barr had effectively killed her own show. In short, he agreed she brought it on herself, a sentiment he didn't share when the outrage later turned towards him. That's called hypocrisy. And it didn't kill her show. The show went on without her because it had been in the highest rated spot. Now, its ratings started to go down when you remove Roseanne from Roseanne. Shockingly. Later in the week, we'll probably be talking about what a film called Tron is like when you remove Tron from it. So let's move on. We don't have a lot of time, and I want to get through all the others. Let's get to Gilbert Gottfried. Gilbert Gottfried! He's somebody that we should talk about as well. Gilbert Gottfried was the last of his kind, a comic who would say anything, anywhere, and didn't care who flinched. For years, that attitude made him a legend. But when the cultural winds shifted, he became a casualty. In 2011, after tweeting jokes about the Japan earthquake, Affleck fired him from his role as the company's mascots. You remember Affleck? That was his voice back then. A position he had held for over a decade. Sponsors fled, venues canceled appearances, and media treated him like a public villain. Even his old friend Howard Stern, who used to be just like that, once the poster boy for offensive comedy, abandoned him at the first sign of controversy. Let's face it, Howard Stern has become a cuck. He absolutely has. Figuratively speaking. I don't know about his personal life. Gottfried, who had stood shoulder to shoulder with Stern for years, suddenly found himself untouchable. They're hypocrites. They absolutely are hypocrites. You stand by me, I stab you in the back. That's how it works with these people. He kept performing, but Hollywood had closed its doors for good. The same culture that defended Jimmy Kimmel's freedom of speech for mocking Christians and Middle Americans refused to grant Gilbert the same right to joke. Let's get to somebody I don't even know who he is. Justin Roiland? I have no idea who this guy is. Justin Roiland's cancellation shows how innocent until proven guilty no longer applies in Hollywood. It kind of never did. The co-creator and voice of Rick and Morty and Solar Opposites, was accused in early 2023 of domestic violence and other heinous crimes. The internet convicted him instantly. Adult Swim and Hulu cut ties before a single hearing took place. Then the truth came out. The prosecutors dismissed the charges. Roiland wasn't convicted of anything, but even after being cleared, no studio apologized, no network reinstated him, and no colleague came forward to defend him. He was erased from his own creations without a second thought. Jimmy Kimmel, by contrast, wasn't even facing criminal allegations when he was suspended. He was facing embarrassment, and Hollywood called it persecution. That's how deep the double standard goes. Let's get to the next one. Gina Carano. That's a big one for a lot of us here. Gina Carano's firing from The Mandalorian was the moment millions of Americans realized how ideological Hollywood had become. They literally had proven the point she had made by getting rid of her. She said it, they made it very glaringly true. She didn't break any law, she didn't attack anyone, she posted messages critical of political tribalism, warning that labeling neighbors as the enemy leads to dangerous consequences. The post was misinterpreted online, purposely misinterpreted. In fact, it was twisted beyond all recognition. And within hours, Lucasfilm declared her comments abhorrent and unacceptable. Disney made sure everyone saw the announcement. Carano was fired, and her character Cara Dune was quietly written out of Star Wars. The same network that shielded Jimmy Kimmel for far worse rhetoric turned her into an industry outcast. But Carano refused to disappear. She joined the Daily Wire to make independent films, and in 2024, she filed a wrongful termination lawsuit against Disney with Elon Musk's legal team backing her. The filing accused Disney of selective enforcement, pointing out that Mark Ruffalo and Pedro Pascal have posted inflammatory political content with no consequences. The legal battle ended up being a stunning reversal. After months of filings, and with the threat of discovery looming, Disney quietly settled with Carano in August of 2025. The terms weren't disclosed, but what turned heads was Disney's own public statement. In an extraordinary twist, the company that once called her posts abhorrent and unacceptable was forced to release language praising her professionalism and contribution to The Mandalorian. It was corporate speak, but the subtext was unmistakable. They lost, and they knew it. For Carano, the settlement wasn't just about money. It was a vindication for herself and canceled conservative celebrities everywhere. It proved that her firing wasn't based on any genuine misconduct, but on politics and image control. Hollywood didn't welcome her back. It was dragged to the table. Even in victory, she still stands outside the gates of the establishment, but she stands taller than the people who tried to silence her. Now Carano's comeback is happening in spite of Hollywood, not because of it. She isn't asking for their forgiveness. She's exposing their hypocrisy. There's another one. You know, so many people believe that what she said was anti-Semitic. People believed it because they were told it, not because they even went and looked at what she said. And when you look at what she actually said, it is absolutely demonstrably true. We see it playing out right now in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. His assassination was exactly what Gina Carano was warning us about. And the reaction to it tells you everything you need to know. Tells you everything you need to know. James Wood didn't lose his career over scandal. He lost it over principle. For decades, Woods was one of Hollywood's most respected actors, an Oscar nominee, a leading man, and a constant presence in acclaimed films. But his outspoken conservative views made him persona non grata in an industry that prides itself on tolerance. So this email from his agent, a political liberal today. It's the 4th of July and I'm feeling patriotic. I don't want to represent you anymore. I mean, I could go on a rant, but you know what I'd say. Okay. In 2018, his talent agent emailed him on Independence Day to say what I just read. Woods shared the message publicly and it went viral. That one note symbolized everything wrong with Hollywood's selective morality. He hasn't appeared in a major production since. And when California wildfires threatened his Malibu home later that same year, social media lit up with mockery. People cheered at the possibility of his house burning down, calling it karma. Tell me, is it karma when everyone else's house is burned down too? All your liberal lefty friends? Maybe. Thankfully, it survived, but the incident revealed the cruelty of the mob mentality that now defines modern entertainment. Not just modern entertainment. The whole lefty wing. Let's be honest. James Wood didn't attack anyone. He didn't lie like Jimmy Kimmel. He didn't incite violence. He was added to a list of canceled celebrities because he refused to parrot the industry line. That was enough to end his career. The double standard and the death of free speech. That's what I'm getting to. If it's not true across the board, then it is the death of free speech. Silence one, you silence everyone. Hollywood likes to claim it protects free speech, but what it really protects is approved speech. When Jimmy Kimmel spread misinformation in the wake of national tragedy, mocked conservatives, and even made racial jokes in the past in blackface, his network called it comedy. When other canceled celebrities like those listed above spoke out, made insensitive jokes, were accused without proof, or expressed unpopular opinions, they were destroyed. Roseanne Barr, Gilbert Gottfried, Justin Roiland, Gina Carano, and James Woods weren't victims of cancel culture. These canceled celebrities were victims of selective tolerance. The speech wasn't dangerous, it was just unfashionable. Free speech means defending expression you don't agree with. It means jokes, mistakes, and opinions shouldn't end careers. Yet the Hollywood establishment, the very people who claim to stand for that principle, only seem to invoke it when it protects their own. In the end, that's what separates Jimmy Kimmel from the canceled celebrities on this list. He never fought for free speech. He just benefited from its selective enforcement. And that's all I have to say. Well, that's all that Park Place had to say, but that pretty much sums up where I'm at on all of this as well. Let me back up and see what you guys had to say. Gina Carano didn't say anything. What she posted is literally outside the Holocaust Museum. Susan Sarandon, on the other hand, posted the same thing and added, "This is how Republicans treat Democrats." Yep. These people need to look in a mirror. They really do. They really do. And Susan Sarandon's another one that signed Hanoi Jane's little protest letter. So just saying. Her only value in the industry was her role in Rocky Horror Picture Show and The Hunger. Other than that, she's worthless. Absolutely worthless. As is most of these people in the entertainment industry. Why I am mostly only supporting independent films and independent creators like you folks out there. And I hope you will return the favor in how you support me. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe. Please become a member. I am trying to reach 100 members by the end of the year. Please help me make that dream a reality. It can only happen if you guys pull together. Because let's face it, we can stand against this stuff that we've been talking about, but only if we stand together. Guys, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me. Please join me tonight on Doomcock's channel. And till then, take care and see you on the next one. Salute.
Goodbye. Hope to see you again real soon.
So here's to the daylight, the drinks and the fun, our liquid lunch, till the next one comes. With a wink and a smile, we'll be back real soon, chasing that jazz under the high noon.